Hello everybody. This video I'll be diving into some some of technology and me making my videos and things like that. The, First of all, I want to say I don't edit my videos at all. Have no clue how to edit videos. Plus, it seems like a lot of people that do that makes them excellent videos on YouTube. A lot of what they're using is Apple or Macintosh, whatever you want to call it. And I won't use Macintosh or Apple. I won't use it because I don't like some of their practices. For instance, like getting a phone repaired. And with Android phone, you can take it into any repair shop, any phone repair shop, and they'll try to take care of it. They'll try to fix the problems that you have. But with Apple, at least what their practices is that, like, if you had a phone repair that needed repair, or a laptop that needed repair, if it was Apple, there may be some repair shops that would handle them, but they're using parts off of older computers that to get repaired, and a lot of times it ain't official licensed repair. But but in most cases, a lot of, like, laptops, you might take it into regular Apple store to have them see if they can fix it. But what they always have to do is to take it in, and then they have to send it in to the main company to have them repair it, because Apple won't supply any other parts at all. They don't want the parts getting out there, and which I think is kind of bad practice. But with that being said, there's an awful lot of people using Apple because Apple is good for certain things, like video editing and things like that. They're awesome at. Not as much gaming. Where a lot of gamers that you see out there, they're using Microsoft for their games and everything, because Microsoft is real good for, like, they're good for, like, gaming and also any type office type work or anything. They're good at that. But Apple, it's, I mean, they're good video editing, in which, granted, they have something going for them, but just their practices I don't like, because, as I said, like, one channel that I watched on occasions, I haven't watched it for a while, but Rosman Repair Group. And a lot of his older videos, he was showing you how to repair certain things on a Macintosh laptop or whatever. And where he's using, like on one certain chip that's in it, that when a lot of times it may die where the chip ain't any good, and it's basically the same type of chip that Texas Instrument uses for like calculators and things. And so it was easy to get a chip to replace it. I'm saying at that time when he was showing the repairing and everything, but he couldn't get the official license products from Apple because he wasn't a licensed repair service for Apple. I think he did change to where he was. I'm not sure. I haven't really kept up to date with his videos. I know a lot of videos he does, he's not ever at his shop repairing items anymore. But he's into more like laws, trying to get the right to repair laws passed and everything, which now that's passed where they can't deny repairs anymore. But in the past, Apple was against people repairing the devices. And plus, like if you send it in to, like if the main processor starts dying where it needs to be replaced, guess what Apple does? They basically take out the motherboard, which, because the processor is soldered on, and they just put a new motherboard in. They don't, and a lot of times they don't bother changing switching the hard drive over to the newer motherboard. So therefore, you end up losing your data. And there's no sense in that happening. There's no sense at all. Because with a lot of like computer repairs that does repairs for Windows-based computers, they would, like processor, it's easily replaced, usually easily replaced, except laptops, Windows laptops is a little bit different. They may be soldered in, but they're usually set up where you can take the hard drive out to switch it over to a new motherboard if that's the situation, if that's a thing getting replaced. And a lot of times it's done that way. So, with Apple, you never know if you're going to be able to keep your data or not. It's just the practices I don't like. you know. So therefore I won't use Apple. Now one of my first computers I had back in like maybe I don't know what year it was, but anyways I had a old Apple IIc that I got from a good friend of mine, which I haven't seen him in years. I wonder what he's been up to, but I have no clue how to even get a hold of him. But anyways, the Apple IIc was, I mean, it was an excellent computer when it came out. Excellent computer. But it was, came out in the time that before hard drives was invented. I mean, they had a device you could get from that was similar to a hard drive, but I can't remember what they called it, but from my going by memory, it was like you could fit around 12 programs in it, which says it ain't very large, but of course, look at what time frame it was when it came out. It was very early in the computer age. And so, but it was a fun computer. Of course, you had to know computer language and that, which I didn't really know a lot of. But there were several games I had that I could easily put in and play. But, I mean, the floppy disk I had, I think 5 1/4 the size was. I mean, it was a drawer where was able to fit 3 rolls of disk going back deep, and it went maybe 1.5 to 2 feet deep. So it was a pretty big drawer. I had one full drawer full of nothing but floppy disks. And within that floppy disk, I had pretty much all the different computer languages, like Pascal, I think, was one, and I can't remember what else I had, which I had no idea how to even do anything like that. I was just learning computers at the time. But, of course, I think when I had that, they already had computers that had, I believe they had hard drives. But I'm not sure. But then one of my friends that was very computer savvy, he gave me a computer. I think it was 66 megahertz. I know you can laugh, but it had Windows 3.1 and so which Windows 3.1 it was, I think it was like 3 disks. Three, I think those are 3 1/4 floppy disks, the smaller type ones, and but it had 3 of them, which it wasn't very big program at all. But I mean, it gave you the Windows atmosphere. It had of course, Paint Shop, which I used, and plus certain games I had for it that that I mean at that time with how computers run, it when you turn it on, it opens in DOS. Then to open Windows, you had to type the command to open Windows. And then after that, it was a Windows 95 unit, which, I mean, that was a big change around with Windows because it actually had a toolbar that where I think it gave you the start button. I can't remember which, but I remember around that time, I think you always had to have, usually you had DOS installed on the computer first, and then you can, which gave you the what you needed to install the Windows program. But of course they also had there was one disk that you always had to have, Windows Startup Disk, which was 3¼ disk that you had to put in, and if you was missing that, you was almost screwed on installing Windows 95. But but I think it later on it had the Windows 95 had the option where you can put the disk in, and then it gave you the ability to create a Windows startup disk, which in turn you use to install Windows 95. But it was a fairly cool program, although that was before I could even do any music at all on the computers. Because I don't know if it was because of the speed of the computer or what it was, but I remember that I couldn't do any music on it. It didn't have that power at all. But then later on I was able to, through him, I was able to get a computer that had Windows 98. And Windows 98 was one version of Windows that stuck around for years. I mean, I remember, I think Windows 2000 came out, and me and the person I was living with was still using Windows 98 because it was actually Windows 98 second edition, because it was a very stable Windows operating system, and you could do so much with it. So it was an excellent operating system. But then I think then the following type of computer I had, I think I actually ended up buying a store-bought computer, a desktop. And where, of course, when you buy a brand new desktop, it usually came with the most recent Windows, which I think was, I believe it was Windows XP. Or actually, what was, I remember having Windows 7. Might have been Windows 7. But then, no, actually it was XP that my first store-bought computer had. What was right after Windows 7. It was right after that version that I had, and then a new version of Windows came out, and I bought the deluxe copy of that, which ended up, it worked pretty good, but the thing is, every time I had to restore my computer, it was getting it back to the factory specs, which it was Windows XP, and then whatever it was, and then putting in the other Windows to update that. But then I think I ended up getting a new computer not too long after that of course had the updated Windows. So, I mean, Windows has progressed quite a bit. And I remember when, I think it was Windows 10, that they was always talks that was basically the last Windows that would come out. Well, we're on now? I think Windows 11. And I mean, it went from 8 to 10. They skipped the 9. They skipped Windows 9 because of like Windows 95 and Windows 98. Which was, I remember, always known as Windows 9X, which X represents either Windows 95, 98, that era, which are somewhat similar, but yet they was different. But then I think what Windows wants to do is create basically an operating system where it's just a basic operating system, but then anything else involved with the computer, they can easily update that, but keeping the main guts of the Windows system alone. That's kind of what they want to try to do, or what they wanted to try to do. But I think they're failing at that type of thing. As far as, like right now, I remember when Uh, my one friend, when he bought a new computer, he also bought, I think it might have been Windows XP, that he bought a copy of Windows, and then he left town for a bit, moved somewhere else, but then he came back, and of course I ended up having trouble with my computer at the time where I had to restore it, and I used the Windows he had, the copy he had. Of course, he had put it on another one's computer with the town that he was from, because he thought you could keep on using it on any computer, because Windows 95 and Windows 98 you could use on multiple computers, because me and my friend, we both use the same Windows disk for both our computers. Plus, I think at one time a friend came over to have his computer redone, where he had to reinstall Windows, which was Windows 98, and it worked for his. Wasn't any security at all. When I don't know about Windows 7, but I know Windows XP, the security was there where you could only install the Windows on one computer. So it was protected that way. Of course, there is versions of Windows that that's a lot of repair services and that, or people that deals with selling of computers and that don't have the security thing on, where they can install it on multiple computers, because they have to have it that way. But I think nowadays Microsoft don't make their money off of the selling of the Windows program. You can pretty much install the Windows program for free. But the thing is, with that, you're unable to change like the desktop picture and stuff like that. You can't. There are certain things that you can't do with the unlicensed Windows. But it's things that doesn't matter, because you still can use the Windows program for gaming, for like streaming TV shows or anything like that. You can always still use a computer like normal. But even though you can't even, like certain things that you can't do on a unofficial like Windows version, you can download programs that allows you to do that anyways. It just ain't a Windows type program, but it would work just the same. And so, but as a, I'm I'm kind of a computer savvy person. I know how to redo my own computers and that. I've like this laptop I'm using now. I ended up having to restore it like 2 times since I got it. Because one time was because of me being on Discord and I had a person send me a friends request, and I thought I knew the person because the name matched someone that I knew. And like a dummy, I accepted the friend request. And by the next day, the everything on my desktop was gone. Only thing I had was the start button. I had that, but everything else that I had on my desktop was gone. Plus, my OneDrive was always showing full. My computer was showing that it was the hard drive was filled. So it was plus that one person that I thought was my friend. All of a sudden the name was actually different than what I seen previously. So it was someone that ended up, I think he put ransomware on my computer, but me being computer savvy, what I just did a system restore and put it back to factory specs and deleted my files because a lot of the main files I had already backed up on another hard drive. So, but I did lose a lot of pictures and everything, but nothing real major. But then the second time I had to redo just wasn't, the computer wasn't really, I mean, it was working fairly good, but my OneDrive was showing that it was full. Some of the icons I had on my desktop was gone, but with how OneDrive worked is I always have, it's always backed up onto the cloud. So when I did a restore this time, I had it keep my files, and so got that done, and of course the OneDrive was still full, but I was able to, in turn, the files that I had on it, on the OneDrive, I pretty much backed up onto my hard drive. So, and then I pretty much, after I had the stuff backed up that I wanted to keep, I pretty much deleted everything in the OneDrive. And it went from like 5 gigs of stuff down to now I think last time I checked it was reading like 1 gig, which is kind of what it should be. So I recovered from that situation. I'm pretty computer savvy, can get computers back to running order pretty much. Maybe in the future video, of course I can't right now where I'm at. I can't show you or anything, but I do have another older computer that I can actually show you on how to go about doing a restore on your computer. I do want to do that sometime, but right now I don't have the stuff, being that I'm at a hotel, only have my basic things I need that I have to survive. But anyways, this video is getting above 30 minutes, so I'm gonna end it here. And as usual, what I always do is, anybody out there that has any prayer requests, put it in the comments below, or if they have any suggestions, put it in the comments below. And plus, I don't know how much you want to comment down below, but I'm interested in if you had any like health stories or anything, that you can always put something down in the comment section, and I would love reading it. Any like health conditions or whatever, especially if it's related to cancer or some type of cancer like lymphoma or whatever. I would love to hear the stories. But anyways, until next time, God bless you all, and I'll see you again later.